guys, how y'all doing today? My name is Franchise Fanatic and welcome back to the channel. And today for you guys, this is another movie review. Today we're tackling John Wick Chapter 4. Now, this film has been a long time coming. In fact, I kind of arrived late to the John Wick franchise. Of course, when it was coming out, I wasn't allowed to see any R-rated movies, so I kind of didn't really care. And then, of course, I saw the first one. I enjoyed the first one. All right, I'm going to do a little tier list in the end here, but I really liked the first one. I really enjoyed the second. I effing love the third, and the fourth one I also really enjoy. Obviously, again, they're not going to make a bad movie. They don't intentionally make these bad. Now, before I get into it, there is going to be a spoiler section toward the end of this review, kind of like how I've been doing with the Scream reviews. So, just little heads up that will be near the end. Not this part will be spoiler free, of course. But this film is the #1 movie in the world, so I'm going to be honestly shocked if you haven't seen it. If you actually want to see it, go out to your theater and watch it. Of course, you can watch this part, so I'm not going to ruin anything. But the end will be after you've seen it. But yeah, so John Wick Chapter 4 takes place a few years after 3 Parabellum, where John Wick, again, I'm going to be spoiling the third because you should have seen that one. Okay, we're on 4. I kind of have to. So basically, John Wick gets shot off a friggin' roof, and then the Bowery King kind of takes him in. He's like, "Are you pissed off, John?" He's like, "Yeah." And he kind of does that to the Bowery King. Well, he doesn't have a one finger. His this finger. I'm not flipping you guys off. It's not that one. It's this one. He cuts it off, and it doesn't happen. But it's a good way to end the film. Parabellum ended really, really well. I think, in my opinion, it kind of left the door open to see what was going to happen next. Is John Wick going to die? In 3, he looks pretty banged up in that film. The Bowery King and him are just kind of take on the high table, and what's up with Winston and all that, and you get all these answers in the film. But this one takes place, I'm assuming, about a year or so. Nothing too far into the future, but his John Wick's not all jacked up looking. So obviously, it's been a little bit of time between 3 and 4. And he's training and all that, and he kind of wants to get back at the high table and all that. And of course, we get our villain, the Marquis de la or whatever. I can't speak French. I don't know if Marquis de la whatever is his name or if that's his title. I don't know. John Wick, the franchise, goes into like the different languages, and Winston's like the Marquis de la. I'm like, what? What the fuck? But I'm trying to assume that's his title. I'm assuming. Of course, the villain is played by the guy that Bill Skarsgård. I think he played Pennywise, the dancing clown in the newer It films. I haven't seen him, but that's who he plays, and he is essentially the bad guy. Not essentially, he is, and he does a pretty good job. Of course, he doesn't do a whole lot. He's probably one of the weaker villains. He is better than what's his face in the first one. I don't even remember his name. Pretty crappy villain in that one, but he's not my favorite, but it's not really a knock to the film. It is what it is. Now, you do get, of course, Donnie Yen, which I know him as Chirrut Îmwe from Rogue One, A Star Wars Story. He's in many other things as well, but of course he plays Kane in this film. And he's a freaking badass, man. I don't think Donnie Yen is actually blind. It just so happens that in Rogue One and John Wick Chapter 4, he plays a blind killer. I guess that's just, they saw Rogue One, and they're like, "Oh, that's cool, make him blind." I don't know. And it works. They actually kind of, if you really look at the the choreography of the fight scenes, you can tell that John and Kane, they actually fight differently, because Kane's blind. He's not going to be fighting like a guy can see, because then it would be kind of weird. So there's that disconnect. And that leads me to, I guess we'll just talk about the elephant in the room, the fighting, the action, the cinematography, the choreography. It is, as you would expect from a John Wick film, this is the film's strongest suit. It is top-tier action filmmaking. It's not only good because it's choreographed well, right? Because a lot of people take that for granted, right? You watch a lot of shitty movies like Taken with Liam Neeson, or whatever, stuff like that. And these films, they have a tendency of being, how do we portray action? Well, we're going to use shaky cam, and we're going to do this, and we're going to shake the camera like everyone's on crack, and it's going to be great. But the end result is a film that looks like dog water because you don't know what the F is going on. You know what I mean? The camera's moving this way and that. It's like you're watching this film and you're experiencing a hurricane or a tsunami or something, some earth-shaking event, but you're just sitting in your chair, at night eating popcorn or what have you. So there's a difference between bad action and good action. Some examples of good action, of course, obviously Star Wars, Marvel, DC, most of the main franchises that I cover on this channel are examples of good action scenes. Now, there's the occasional thing like, The Dark Knight Rises, where a guy just trips, or Blade 2 had a scene. So there are mistakes. Luke in Return of the Jedi kicks a skip guard in the friggin' head, but here's the skip guard's head, and Luke's foot is like this far off. it's, you know, it is what it is. Movie mistakes happen, but for the most part, those are good examples, right? I've seen Hardcore Henry, which is the world's first-person movie. Think of like Call of Duty the movie. Phenomenal film. Like, I love it. It's very well done. Of course, it's a generic plot, but the action and the way they filmed it, they could have filmed that film very shaky cam, where it's like, and it kind of is, you know, it could have been very disorienting. And Hardcore Henry is an example of a newer kind of action film done right. And the John Wick films are, of course, the center of that as well. In fact, I would argue John Wick 1 through 4 are some of, if not the best, in terms of action filmmaking. Now, I stand by that Kingsman 1 and 2, and I guess The Kingsman, are kind of, you know, those are my top-tier action in terms of the way they're shot and filmed, right? Think of, like, the Kingsman church scene. That is top-tier action in my eyes. Like, the way the camera was moving in those Kingsman fight scenes, awesome. Sadly, that is not in any of these 4 films. However, what they do in this film is they make it different than any other John Wick film. What do I mean by that? Well, they kind of have these action scenes where obviously you can follow it, right? As I was saying, the choreography is freaking amazing. You can actually tell what's going on. You can tell where John Wick is. You can tell where Kane is. You can tell where Mr. Nobody is and his dog. You know, the black dude from the trailer, his name's Mr. Nobody. We don't know his name, but that's the character. He's a really good character. And everyone in this film is, of course, a good character. But there's a lot of these moments where you're like, oh man, I can actually follow what's going on. You know, it's not... I think a lot of the negativities and I guess... well, negatives of the John Wick movies, including this one, is that a lot of it can be kind of cartoony and over the top, and we'll get to that. But besides that, the action generally and genuinely in this film is very well done, right? There's really, and I'm not going to spoil it, but there's some really awesome set pieces where they can mix comedy and action, or brutality and action, and just good. Like, if you're a fan of action movies, like, you know, this film made me feel like, you know, when you're a kid, I don't know if girls can relate, but if you're a dude, I'm sure you can relate. I mean, I still do this to this day. My friends come over and we have like these Nerf wars, you know what I mean? Like, I have a toy crossbow and we shoot targets. You know, like when you're a kid, a teen, or hell, even an adult like me, you have these awesome, you know, like, I'm not going to be I mean, I want to be a filmmaker, but probably not going to happen. But, you know, you go into these motions or these notions where you're playing with Nerf guns. You're like, oh, I could do that shot. You know, I'm filming something with Alan, just, you know, puppets. And I'm like, oh, I can kind of arrange that shot like this so that the guys in the camera, it feels like that. It feels like the director just took a camera and he just had these crazy visions when he was a kid of these badass, you know, Nerf rolls or awesome reloading things. And it's just John Wick chapters 1 through 4. It's like that. It's just the ultimate action dream, right? They kind of do everything you want in an action film. They do it really, really well. It's just a genuinely, like... it has this high energy about it, which is really, really cool. Now, the plot is, of course, I would say the plot is better than Chapter 3 and 2 and probably 1. I think, because, you know, this takes place a little bit after 3, and basically it's John Wick and Kane and, you know, all this stuff. And it's not as much action focused as 3. I think Parabellum had the most action out of all 4 films. Chapter 3 was just go, 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 go until it ended. This one has a lot of action, more than 1 and 2, but it's not as bad as 3, or not as much as 3. But again, the story is pretty straightforward, but it, again, there's enough twists and turns in there where you're kind of like, okay, this makes sense. You know, there's this, the Asian girl, I don't remember her name. She's really good. You know, Kane is really good. Because, look, it's hard for you to go, oh, John Wick and Kane were buddies back in the day, but you've never, this is the first time we see Kane in a film. So, you know, how does the writer and the director, how do they convey that John Wick and Kane are used to be friends, now turned quote-unquote enemies in a sense? How do you make that work? Because, again, you don't have that previous film to do that. And they make it work, I think, which is pretty good. Writing, acting, good. Now, let's leads me on to the negatives, but for the most part, this is a great film, but I do have to mention some negatives here. Going into the acting, Keanu Reeves is... okay. I don't know if the director told Keanu to be like, hey, talk slow, because my mom walked out of the theater, saw it with her, and she asked me, why does he sound stupid? Those were her words. And I was like, what are we talking about? She's like, he talks like, everyone in the movie talks normal, and then John Wick's like, yeah, sure, I'm going to kill you. Hello? Yeah. Any last words, Winston? Hello. You know, he sounds like that. It's just, it's weird. You know, like he talks like monotone. And the director was like, oh, he's a man of few words. I get that. He's mysterious. He's an assassin. I get it. He's not going to be a friggin' chatterbox. But at the same time, you know, you get Winston who's like, you know, oh, well, the Marquis Dumont is over here and he's going to... And John Wick's like, yeah. Now, I know that's the staple, right? They did it in the first film. It caught on. It's like an in-universe joke. In fact, one of my main issues with the Chapter 4 trailers was that every time John Wick was in that trailer, he would either go, yeah, or sure, or I don't think so. You know, that's all he would do. He would just say, he sounds like Patrick Star. You know what I mean? He sounds like an idiot. He barely can complete a full sentence. Now, I don't care if he was told to do that or not. Whatever, you know what I mean? It takes you out of it a little bit. Because it falls into that cartoony range where, and I get it, it's supposed to be over the top, right? This is not, if John Wick was a real person, he would probably survive half of this stuff. But he wouldn't survive all of it. Like, if Keanu Reeves was in a Walmart and shit was going down, and he had a gun because he was packing heat, he knows how to do this stuff. He knows kung fu. He knows gun fu. He's been trained in this stuff. You know, Keanu Reeves is not just like, oh, it's a guy. No, he's trained to do this stuff. So Keanu Reeves would F you up big time in a real life situation. But at the same time, if he jumped out of a 10-story building and hit a friggin' van, he probably wouldn't make it. Or he'd be, you know, I mean, it's a movie. I understand that, right? Movies are movies. They're not reality. But at the same time, this film... with kind of that dialogue does sort of fall into that trap of this could almost be too cartoony. You know when you're watching like Tom and Jerry or the Looney Tunes and like, you know, Bugs Bunny like shoots Daffy in the face with a shotgun and his skin's all off, but then like the next scene he's perfectly fine. You know, or like Tom like throws Jerry into a grinder or like a milkshake grinder and then like he escapes, but his tail's chewed up and then the next scene he's all good. That's what this feels like at times. That's not a bad thing, but it is one of the negatives, right? It's not horrible. But it's something I had to mention, is that there's a few scenes, you know, there's a scene where John Wick's fighting on some stairs, and it's in the trailer, he shoots a bunch of guys, and then, like, 1 or 2 shots later, they do the stair thing again, but now there should be, like, 15 dead bodies all over the place. They're not there. They're just gone. Now, either that was a reshoot, or they just, you know, whatever. I get it. You know, stuff happens. But if you're going to have this over-the-top, insane action, you need to have the rules of the world make sense. Because if they don't, then you're just venturing into cartoon territory. It's not a bad thing, but John Wick has never been a cartoon live-action film. Yes, the action's over the top, but most of it is legit. Like, you know, it's legit. You know, if you were literally trained, if John Wick was that, you know, if you took a Marine and did that, all this stuff in this film is plausible. You know, like how he snaps a neck with a book, or he does all these crazy, you know, there's a certain way to tumble downstairs without killing yourself. There's a certain way to reload quickly. So stuff like this is realistic. But at the same time, there's moments like that where the people disappear. There's moments where John Wick's fighting that killer dude, that really skinny guy that got in a fat suit, and, you know, everyone's dancing in a club. And I get it, the music's retarded loud, and there's guns. So, yes, I'll admit it, okay, it's plausible that the music is so damn loud, and it's either that or no one gives a crap that there's stuff happening. And because my mom was in the theater and she was like, why does no one notice John Wick just threw a hatchet at a dude's face and they're still dancing? Or John Wick just shot a guy through the neck and they're still dancing. Okay, one, it's a movie. But you shouldn't use that as a crutch. You know what I mean? Because again, that could easily venture into this cartoony rules don't matter territory, you know. Maybe the music was too loud, okay, I'll give them that. Now, to their movie's credit, there were scenes where the person that John Wick was next to, they did stop dancing and they did look at him like, what the fudge is going on, you know. Obviously, not everyone in the club would notice this, and they all did run out at the end, but, you know, there's little moments like that, little moments that kind of take you out of the film. And you know, that's obviously not a good thing, but it's nothing like a deal breaker. It's just also not as memorable as 3. 3 is just consistent action, and that's what kept me engaged a lot of it, and the action's really good. The action in this film is phenomenal, too. Trust me, it's freaking awesome. The way it's shot, the way it's choreographed, the framing, the new techniques they use. I mean, the work that they did in this is phenomenal. And the story is good. The acting, for the most part, is good. Again, my only acting issue is Keanu Reeves. And again, maybe he was told to just say very little. But it does come off as kind of like I don't want to say mentally ill person, but, you know, it's hard for him to talk, like, in complete full sentences when he's just going, yeah, the whole, you know what I mean? And I get it, that's the joke, you know. Like, there was literally the first scene, John Wick's training, and he turns around slowly to the camera and goes, yeah. And there was a guy next to me going, like, it's, you know what I mean? Like, that's the thing. That's the joke. It's the in-universe joke. That's the thing. I get it, all right? I'm not stupid. That's the thing. But at the same time, if all he says in the movie is 1 to 2 syllable words per sentence, and, you know, he doesn't, but, you know, of course I'm being hyperbolic, but there are moments where it's like that genuinely in this film. It does take you out of it. There's a few editing mishaps. There's a few things that, you know, obviously, you know, like the people not noticing the dancing. So there's little stuff like that which kind of bring you out of it. But again, there is some really genuinely good action. The writing is good. The world building is phenomenal. The story is better than it ever has been because, again, these consequences from Chapter 3 kind of barrel over into this one. So obviously, I love the film, but if I had to do a full ranking, it would probably go Chapter 3, and then 4, then 2, then 1. I don't hate any of them. In fact, I love all of them. But if I had to make a thing, if John Wick had a gun to my head and said choose one, I'd have to go in that order. I'm only choosing 3 above 4 because 3 is more memorable, and I just think that it's hard to explain. It really is. It's just to me, it's a more memorable film. The action in this film is memorable, but again, there's not as much action. There's a lot more talking than I thought there was going to be for a nearly 3-hour film. It's 2 hours and 56 minutes or something. And it's a great movie, and it went by like that. It was really quick, but at the same time, there were a few moments that, again, took me out of it a bit and just were a little too goofy for what you expected. Because, you know, John Wick, you have to get in the suspension of disbelief that, obviously, again, maybe a guy could do all this. But if you're getting slammed against cars and you're falling out of buildings and you're you're getting shot in the elbow, and you'd probably die. You know, maybe you get the most badass guy in the world, which John Wick is in this universe, in this canon. It makes sense. But again, they kind of leaned into the fact that, yeah, we're gonna use his that's gonna be funny, and it's gonna be crazy over the top action. And that's the point of the John Wick franchise, right? That's what you go to see. Most movies don't have this level of action that is this intense and this crazy and over the top. But again, it was very, very close at times to falling into that cartoony, Looney Tunes-esque, you know, kind of way. Now, the way the film ends, there are going to be spin-offs, right? There's apparently going to be a Kane spin-off. There's going to be a Continental TV show, I think on Peacock or something like that, where it's going to be some kind of streaming service, where it's going to be a younger Winston kind of talking about the Continental and how that kind of came to be. There's a movie called Ballerina, which is going to star Ana de Armas, who was in Knives Out, and Blonde, which is the movie about Marilyn Monroe. So she's going to be the star. I know that's going to... Everyone, oh, it's woke! When you have a woman in a movie and she's cool, that's not woke. If she is better than every man ever, then yeah, that's woke. But having a girl be a cool, badass protagonist like Rey, that's cool. And again, that's just sexist if you think otherwise. So I think that is really cool that we're going to be getting a female-led movie based on the John Wick universe that is going to take place between 3 and 4. And Keanu Reeves, John Wick, is going to make an appearance in the Ballerina film. So that should be really cool. Hopefully it won't be woke, but from what it sounds, I think having this, you know, because it sounds weird, the title Ballerina, but if you've seen the movies and you know the John Wick lore, then you know what I'm talking about. It's going to be pretty cool. But as far as this film ends, which I'll get into in a minute here in the spoilers, it does leave off pretty definitively, but it's also the door's a little bit open for what could potentially be a John Wick Chapter 5. We don't know. I know the movie's making a butt ton of money, but anyway, John Wick Chapter 4 is a very fun, entertaining, and funny film with a lot of awesome action. But again, there's a few moments in there that kind of made me go, kind of took me out of it a bit, which is why it's a little bit below 3. So I'm going to give John Wick Chapter 4 a B+. I think it's easily one of the best action films probably ever committed to film, just from the choreography and the filmmaking alone. And then you also have the acting, writing, and story to go along with it. You know, I mean, it's not just the action, right? So it's a really good film. But again, just shy a little bit below 3 in my opinion. But tell me in the comments down below without spoiling what you thought about John Wick Chapter 4. Now, we're going to go into spoilers. There's not really too much to spoil, it's just the ending. So if you have not seen Chapter 4, thank you guys. Leave a like, subscribe. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in the next review or next video. But we are going to be talking about John Wick Chapter 4 spoilers. 3, 2, 1, here we go. Alright, John Wick dies. Boom, there it is. I really hope you left the video, because you're probably going to dislike this video if you got spoiled, but I warned you, so there we go. John Wick effing dies. Now, the way it's handled is, I think, really, really well done. I think Kane kind of shooting him, and the whole, you know, Kane is doing it for his daughter, and John Wick's doing it for his freedom. It's good. And Kane is free. His daughter's free. John Wick is free. And then he dies. Not necessarily because of the gunshot wounds. Of course, that helped. But it's also he died because of the various injuries he's sustained. Not only throughout all the movies, but also this movie as well, right? Because that last third act is just he's getting beat up and shot and punched and kicked and hit by cars and falling off. You know, it's crazy. How the hell is this guy still alive? And then he finally dies, right? He just kind of leans over on the stairs. He says his wife's name, Helen, and he dies. I think it's shot really well. It is handled very well. He didn't die stupidly. Like, oh, he got a headshot and his head blew up. You know what I mean? It was a very well filmed and well made. I didn't cry, but I came close. Because John Wick isn't my favorite franchise of all time, but I care about the character and I care about this franchise, right? I think it's a good franchise. And the fact that he kind of died is pretty insane. The film, of course, Sharon, you know, Lance Reddick, sadly, he passed away recently. And he also dies, which is horribly ironic. And that was handled well as well in the movie, I think. So yeah, of course the film, you know, with the Bowery King and Winston kind of leaving his tombstone, which says, I think, John Wick, loving husband, next to Helen Wick, loving wife. I thought it was good. I thought it was well-ended story. Now, again, of course, people online are saying, oh, well, you don't see him die. He could have passed out, you know. He leaned over. Either he died on the steps or he passed out and he faked his death. And the tombstone is a way that he can kind of still be alive, but now that everyone thinks he's dead, kind of like The Dark Knight Rises, you know what I mean? Everyone thinks Batman dies. He leaves a normal life with Selina Kyle, Catwoman. Same freaking thing here. Except that, you know, but it could be, and the director even said, unless they do make a Chapter 5 and just completely F over the source material, the way they left this film open-ended is such a great way. It's like the movie Joker. You know, is the whole thing in Arkham Asylum? Did he imagine the whole thing? Did he die in the fridge? Is the whole thing really effing happening? Who knows? It's left for the interpretation, and that leaves layers and layers and layers in the storytelling of Joker for the audience to mull over years and years after the fact, right? Same thing here. I think it's a well-made ending. You know, either A, he's dead, or B, he faked his death and he's still alive, and now he can live the rest of his life in peace. In the peace that he's always wanted, right? Not only is he free from the high table, he's free to live his life as he sees fit until he is once again reunited with Helen in the afterlife. Or he's just straight up dead and he's with Helen in the afterlife. You know, I don't know. But the way they left it very open-ended is, I think, honestly, it kind of pissed me off at first because I'm like, oh, he's dead. That's a ballsy move. And then I read online that he might not be dead, so I'm like, what pick one, you know, which one is it? But now that I really thought about it, I thought it was a really good way to end it, and it's, again, very open. It's like when you read a good book, and you're like, oh, man, that's a good ending for the book, you know, it's open-ended. It's like that, you know, and you don't see that a lot in movies, specifically films like John Wick, which are very well-made, R-rated, heavy action films that make a butt-ton of money, which this one is. You know, it's kind of crazy that they if they did kill him off, you know, I understand. And that is ultimately the best thing. If he is truly dead, I hope to God they don't bring him back, because that would be the worst thing ever. It's like bringing Tony Stark back. You know what I mean? I get it. This movie is making a butt ton of money. And if these greedy movie-making guys go, oh, movie made over $1 billion, bring him back. I don't know, just say he faked it, it's all good. You know what I mean? That could work, but if he truly is dead, that is better, because it thematically fits with the storyline that he is now free, both from the high table and from life itself, just from the you know, fealties of life that he had to deal with as an assassin, and now he's finally able to live that life through peace with Helen in heaven, as they, you know, hope they do. So I think it's a really good ending, and hopefully they don't F this up and say, yeah, he's actually alive, you know, because this movie, yeah, I get money talks. All right, that's the sad truth of life. I think money is one of the best and worst things ever created by an asshole human being. A lima bean made money. But no, I think that, you know, like I said, money, as Mr. Krabs knows, which, hey, Mr. Krabs is in the movie. You know, when he talks like this and he was going, everyone knows. I was just thinking, SpongeBob, me boy, you're wasting all me money. You know, it's like, that's all I heard. I just heard Mr. Krabs. But, you know, if they do make a fifth, hopefully they don't jack up this character. Because the way this film ended, open-ended like this, I think it's very, again, very ballsy for a very important film that's making a lot of money to do. Because normally you wouldn't kill off the main protagonist in a film that's probably going to make $1 billion. But also at the same time, if he truly is dead, that's awesome too. So I think, you know, having that open-endedness is really, really cool. So that's all I got for spoilers, though. I enjoyed it. Again, B+. Thank you guys for watching. Again, hopefully you have seen it, because if not, I just ruined the entire thing. I'm glad I saw it before, because again, there are spoilers online, so make sure to look out for that. Again, don't ruin anything in the comments. But yeah, I really enjoyed John Wick Chapter 4, B+. Probably, my second favorite one. It's a fantastic franchise, really, really high-octane, badass action, and I can't wait to see what they do in the future. I almost choked on my coffee that I was drinking, but anyway, I didn't. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, rest in peace, Lance Reddick. It's very sad that he died in the film and in real life, but I think it's a great film to honor him by. I think it's a fantastic movie, and there's some issues here or there, but I think especially the ending, being very ambiguous and open-ended like that, is really, really profound and something I wasn't expecting from a John Wick film. Thank you guys, and we'll see you in the next video.